Hello and welcome to another Unreal Engine 5 video. In this video, we will make the different armor values for the tank. We'll make the front and side armor and the rear armor have different values depending on the base armor. So to start with, we need to make different physical material to specify the armor value of the tank. So let's start with making a physical material, and anywhere you want to put them, make a new folder and go here to physical material, select the physical material and let's name it PM. I'll start with the frontal armor. Open the physics material. We go here to the destruction damage threshold scale. For me, for the frontal armor, I will leave it as 1. And let's duplicate it. Let's name it side armor. Here we change the destructible damage threshold. Let's make it 0.5. Let's make it half the frontal armor. And also duplicate it for rear armor. For the rear, I'll make it 0.25, quarter of the base armor. You can add whatever you want. You can add one for the roof of the tank, or the floor of the tank. I'll add another one for the turret of the tank. This for the hull. Turret armor. The turret armor, I'll make it 1.25 or 1.5. Should be stronger than the hull armor. I will not make side armor to the turret. You can make them. You will do the same steps, but just increase in the number. Now, after we made this physics material, we go to the physics asset of the tank. Here we need to add physics bodies for every armor, or every side that we set or we made in the physics material. So we need frontal armor, side armor and rear on the turret. But we need different bone for these assets, for these physics materials to be set. So we can use these bones that do not have vertices linked to them to add physics asset here. But I will or we have other option is to export this mesh to Blender and modify the armature there and add bones for the frontal armor, the side and the rear. For me, I will modify the armature in Blender. It will be better and cleaner. And if you do not want to export it to Blender and make the changes, you can use these bones that do not have any vertices. You can add bodies here and add them to the armor. So let me show you how to how to add the bones in Blender. I already exported the tank. Here in Blender, if you did not use Blender before, when you press the middle mouse button, you can rotate and move the mouse. You rotate the view, and left mouse button to select. Now select the armature here and go to this icon object data property and click this in front to make them easier to see, and also click on the axis to show the axis of the bone. Now to add another bones and modify the bone, we need first click on the armature and then go here to change to edit mode, and we look for the bone of the hull, this one called cog. Click on the Z icon here to change to the top view and extrude another bone by pressing E, then Y to extrude it on the Y axis, and we select the bone here and to right click and clear parent disconnect bone. Now we press G to move the bone to the desired place. I will place it here for the frontal armor. I will call it frontal armor. Frontal armor. To move the view from right to left or to any direction that you want, press the shift and middle mouse button and move the view. Now we need for the side armor the same, press E and Y. Sorry. Right click, clear parent, disconnect bone, and bring it to the place that you want. Now we can duplicate it by either right click and go to duplicate or shift and D. Press Y to move it on the Y axis. Now for the left side. Let's call it side armor. And for the rear, the same. Press E and Y to move it on the right on the Y axis, and press on the bone, clear parent, disconnect the bone. Press G to move it to the rear. This one will be the rear armor. I will not add more bones for the turret. I will leave the turret as a single physics material. Now we export the mesh to Unreal Engine. Press tab to go back to the object mode and press A to select all, then export as FBX. Here press on selected objects and here the forward X and the up is the Z, and here do not change anything. Sometimes you find it as a face, but you select normals only, smoothing. Armature, nothing here to change, nothing. I will export it to the desktop Now let's go back to Unreal Engine. Here in Unreal Engine, we go to the skeletal mesh of our tank. We use the modified one because we modified the tracks before, and we re-import with new file. Use the new one that we made. Now we have let me I think I need to close it. Now we have the bones for the armor. So let's go to the physics assets and add these bones or these physics bodies. For me, I will delete everything and remake them again. Let's first make the bones for the armor. Let's add shape box. Let's change the perspective to the left side. Scale it up and we rotate it to make it take the place of the frontal armor of the tank. Try to fill the place of the frontal armor to avoid any gaps. We'll change it to the front and scale it on the y-axis. Also place it in the middle to avoid any gaps in the armor. Now let's add another body. Let's go back to the left side. Add another shape. Box. Let's move it here to make it on the lower hull. Now make it on the front view. Also scale it on the y-axis and change its position. Here we assign the physical material that we made, frontal armor. Now let's add for the side armor. Also add the shape. Also, if you do not have Blender and cannot use it or do not know how to use it, I will put a link for the modified mesh in the description. Now let's scale it. Adjust its position and scale it on the y-axis also. Bring it here. Side armor, the other one. scale it on the x-axis. Change the position. And for the rear armor, also add another add shape. Scale it on the y-axis. We forgot, I think, to scale them up. Go back to the side armor. Scale it on the z-axis. For the other one, other side armor also scale it on the z-axis. And for the rear armor, let's make it take the shape and the place of the rear armor. I think this is enough. Now we have front on the side. Let's use the side armor for the physics override. Also here side armor, and here for the rear armor. Now let's add a box shape for the rest of the hull. Let me change to top view. Box. Scale it. This box collision for the hull to fill in the gap that we still have in the armor. It will have a small value of the armor. It will represent the roof and the floor of the bottom side of the tank. Now we completed the hull. For the turret, as I said, I will make only one physics body for it. Will not give it different armor values. Let's put here the turret armor for the physics material override. Also for the wheels, let's remake them. Start with wheel 2. Add shape, sphere. Now let's hide all bones and make the wheels kinematic, and the turret also kinematic, and go for the constraint, disable collision, and parent dominates. Also for the armor, the same, make them kinematic and now let's test. Before we test, let's first go to the shell. Here, let me just delete this because I made it previously. Here let's test that it detects the collision of our armor. Let's print string, and here for physical material get damage destruction damage threshold scale. Put it here. Now let's test the front and side. Now I will shoot the front. We should get a value of 1. We're getting 1. Let's shoot the side. 0.5. Let's shoot the rear. I think we made it 0.25. Now it is. Now let's implement this to the armor values. First, let's modify the interface that we made. Let's add this destruction threshold to it. Add another input. Call it. Let's call it penetration modifier. Or armor modifier. Make it float. We go back to the shell, and now we go to the tank. Here, let's throw it to a variable. Sometimes Unreal Engine makes weird things. Now here, the effective armor, as we calculated before, we need to change it here. So we multiply the values that we get from the base armor, the calculations of the effective armor. Let's multiply the effective armor here by the armor modifier. Now let's test it. Let's check first the side armor. It has 0.5 value. Should be less than 200. Now it's getting 134. Let's choose the rear. Should be, if it is quarter of the base armor, should be less than 50 or around 50. That's 85 because we hit it at 100. And also the rear armor is also at 100. Now the frontal armor, it's 400. And the turret also 400 because it is the turret 1.5. I think we made it. Well, the video is becoming too long. I'll just make just one thing here. We need to compare the penetration of the projectile. See if it is more than or less or equal to the projectile penetration. Make a branch. Let's go to the damage where we set our damage here. I will disconnect this execution pin, and I will get these nodes, or instead of this, let's add a boolean. Call it should we call it can be damaged, or yeah, let's call it can be damaged, or can get damage. Now here set it as true, and here set it as false, and we remove this. We previously used this as to only make the projectiles that have high damage damage the vehicle, but now it will depend on the armor penetration of the projectile. Now let me just go to health and print string. Just for testing here to check if everything is okay. Now let's shoot. Nothing happens. Now it is good. Let me check the penetration of the projectile over 300. Let me just add another test. Here, let me change the color of it. Let me see what's going on. Let me check the penetration. This is 300. Then why it does not destroy the tank? Let me check. Let me check the penetration. Now it is dead. Let me just delete this one here. Let's see. Let's make the print string here. Let's see if it is getting true or false. It is penetrating the tank, but does not get damage. I think I think because it is radial damage does not cause that much damage to the tank. Okay, the concept is true. For the next video, I will implement the damage depending on the penetration. I will change uh, the damage this event here. I will make it depends on the penetration by the projectile, and change how the damage calculated when penetrated by the projectile. Thank you for watching. See you next time on another video. Thank you. Goodbye.